Hello, this presentation is going to focus on the methods and results section of the Capstone paper. One of the things that you should know is that in the end you need to come back to what your instructor tells you to do, but in theory you would never have a results section unless you did the methods, unless you did the primary research on your own. The methods section is even debatable. For some, it would not be required. In most research papers, you wouldn't require a methods section if you were only doing, for instance, a literature review. That is, you only focused on secondary research. However, for this paper, the purpose of this paper, a lot of instructors do require a methods section. They want to know what keywords you used, for instance, or how you determined what your research questions would be based on the literature review and your secondary research. So you may or may not need a methods section. You should not be asked to use a results section unless you did primary research. Results that are based on other people's research belong in your literature review. That being said, the goal of this section or these sections is to demonstrate the validity of the research that you performed. Was your primary study appropriate and sufficient for your purpose? Were your findings, primary only, done scientifically? Were they come about scientifically? If you are asked to use a methods section for your secondary research, the idea here is to demonstrate your thoroughness and your thoughtfulness and approach to the study of these secondary sources that you used in your literature review. So, focusing only on the methods section, the objective is to offer a clear and precise description of how your research was performed in order to demonstrate, again, that validity of your research. So focusing on secondary research, what, how, and why. What approach did you use when you sat down to write? How did you go about it? What resources did you use? How did you evaluate the resources that you used? When you focused on figuring out who are the experts in your field, what did you do? What keywords did you use? And what are the limitations of that kind of study? Was there enough information? Was the information conflicting? Was it old? Was a lot of the information you could find older? Did that leave the gap that's why you wanted more study, because so much of it was old? This is what you want to talk about when discussing the secondary research. The primary reason for methods, though, is to discuss your primary research so that your research could be redone by someone else. What research did you do? And in theory, they'd come up with the same answers. How did you go about it and why? What type of primary research did you do? Did you do qualitative or quantitative research and why? Describe your study and your data collection. What location did you use? Why? What subjects? Why? What criteria did you use and why? And the duration and why? And then in your appendices, you will include your interview questions, for instance, or data you collected, the way that your original forms of data before you put them together to analyze them. What was the purpose and intention of your study overall? How did it relate to your research questions? And what was the limitation of your study? Was there bias involved? Was it difficult to get your responses back? Anything like that. And what is the reliability of your data? What issues might exist? So, a note then, we're going to talk about point of view. One of the things that's easy to do in methods is to focus on yourself and that it's your research. And the goal here is just to get I out of there always. So if you primarily focused on secondary research in your approach to studying a topic, simply just say the research of this topic was focused on secondary sources, if that's the case, or was focused on primary resources, and this is the information that was gathered. You're just making sure that I doesn't enter into your paper. This is an academic paper, nor does you, even though it's written in somewhat of a narrative fashion. The first person needs to go out of there. Same with limitations. Also with limitations, you want to make sure that not only do you introduce the limitation, but explain how you would combat it. So it's not okay to say, I didn't have enough time and there wasn't very much information. But it is okay to say, due to the short duration, the development of your primary research was not possible. And if it had allowed for it, the research you would have done that you think would have been beneficial would have been ABC. It's just a way to be more thorough and also academic. So focusing then on the results section, You, again, wouldn't need this results section unless you did primary research, but the goal of the results section is to present and illustrate the findings of your primary research in order to demonstrate, again, the validity of your research. You're not going to discuss your results here. You're simply going to say what they were. So you want to list your results scientifically. What did you find and what data was collected? Describe the findings based on the analysis of your data. In that you're comparing your tables. This many people did this, this many people did this, this demonstrates this. Based specifically on the data, not on why you think it does it, but that it does this. Note your observations. Identify consistencies. Does the data agree? What are the patterns? Identify any negative data that conflicts or contradicts other data you collected. No theorizing or discussion or interpretation is needed here. That comes later in your discussion. So although you'll say A happened and B happened and that means C happened, you're not going to go into why you think C happened or what might have affected C. That comes later in the discussion. And you're also going to illustrate your findings in this case. So looking at resources and methods, how to put your findings into a table and how to put those into your paper. The Purdue OWL has good, clear information on that, as does the USC site. The USC site also has help for coming up with your methods and considering your results. I hope this is helpful. Good luck.